Welcome to the Daily Agenda. So why do people always have to blow everything out of proportion, I wonder? Is that sense of sensationalism, that they just need something to be far more exciting than what it really is? I'm talking about the tweet by Middleton. Anthony Middleton, you know, SAS, who dares wins and all that business. He was actually SBS, Corporal in the Royal Marines. So yes, the point I'm making is, the tweet he put up yesterday, it's a post now, isn't it? It's X, my goodness, honestly. Old habits die hard, don't they? Including for Mr. Middleton. I don't think there was anything particularly wrong in what Middleton said at all, but then obviously I'm biased, aren't I? Obviously, I'd have to be, wouldn't I? Just like the courts are totally biased in the favour of the likes of Ricky Jones, you know, which is partly what the tweet was about. And so British Lander, a YouTube channel, had to blow it all out of proportion and saying, oh, you know, Middleton is basically, he's organising a coup to overthrow the government. Of course, his tweet said nothing of the sort. How they arrived at that conclusion is, well, probably best explained by the love of sensationalism, as I just don't see any coup in that post whatsoever. What he said, for those who haven't seen it, is that when people like Ricky Jones effectively can incite a mob to slit our throats and get away with it scot-free in a bent court, that it's unacceptable. And he didn't even mention two-tier justice, because we all know it's multi-tiered anyway, but two-tier will do. And that we have to defend ourselves, and that we have every right to defend ourselves, and that by defending ourselves, these foreigners and the corrupt government would be shocked to the core. Absolutely bloody right. Absolutely right. I think people need to realise that Middleton did not incite anyone to violence of any description. Nor was he suggesting that there is a coup being planned, and certainly not a military coup. But in the space of just a few days, we've had Colonel Richard Kemp talking about the imminency of civil war, and now Middleton really being quoted totally out of context and being accused of organising a coup. Well, we know that's not true, but in truth, what he said about defending ourselves, both individually and en masse, and as our nation and our culture, absolutely right. That is exactly what we have got to do. Because these people, the left in particular, think they are invincible and untouchable. And why wouldn't they think that? The bent coppers are on their side. We've seen that, bussing them in and out of demonstrations, with those same bent coppers referring to as fascist. The courts acquitting people who've advocated the mass murder of right-wing patriots. It's unacceptable. We've reached the end game. There's no going back. This is well and truly the end game. We are finished and done with all that nonsense in the past, and especially the recent past. Things have now changed. The mood music has changed completely. We're not going back to the way things were. A new mentality has dawned, and it's going to erupt, absolutely no doubt about it, because at the end of the day we're being pushed, provoked, prodded far too much. We're being shoved in the wrong direction too far on a daily basis, and eventually it's going to go bang. Okay? It really is that simple. So I think it's probably best if people like British Lander put these things into a proper context, i.e., instead of getting carried away with wishful thinking, because really that's what it is, isn't it? It's wishful thinking. They're wishing in their heart of hearts that Middleton really was organising a coup d'etat. If only, you might say. If only. Absolutely. I mean, we heard all this, didn't we, during the EU ref as well. I heard it outside Parliament, in actual fact, on the very night of the referendum, just 3 hours before the result was delivered, from Remainers who believed that there was going to be a military coup that night, overnight, because they'd won the referendum, in their view, and the Leavers wouldn't be able to accept it. Never happened, and the Leavers won, didn't they? And Remain didn't bring the country to a standstill with grinding civil disobedience as they claimed they were going to. But that was then. An awful lot has changed since then. And the situation we're in now is that, in essence, what we've seen with the Ricky Jones case is case law establishing that it's perfectly acceptable for a left-wing fanatic to call upon other deranged left-wing fanatics to carry out mass murder against people like us, and they have impunity. With impunity, and in essence, they have immunity from prosecution. That's what this case has established, and that's what Ant Middleton's talking about. And anyone who thinks that we haven't reached the end game is just living in cloud cuckoo land. This is the end game. I said this a couple of nights ago in the podcast about the Ricky Jones case. I don't think people realise yet the significance of what was done at that trial. And irrespective of obtaining the trial transcript with the judge and a summing up to the jury, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter now. It's become cemented in the national mindset. And the mood music has most definitely changed, and it's morphed into we are going to defend ourselves, both individually and en masse, and it's going to be organised. And so, yes, most definitely, perhaps what Colonel Kemp said is true. But I still hold to what I said the other night about Colonel Kemp being irresponsible in saying it, because these men that he's talking about are not trained or equipped to fight a civil war, and they're not even trained to deploy properly against the police. And that's the point that I was making. And so therefore I think it probably is irresponsible for a former senior officer to make such a statement without being realistic in the context of what I said. You know, people just aren't trained. They don't understand the difference between urban warfare and rural warfare and how to deploy accordingly. You know, I mean, goodness, it's such a serious situation, and there's far too much talking it up in terms of civil war, I think, and it's being driven in that direction deliberately. You know, it's almost like the centre-right in particular is hell-bent on this civil war confrontation. But do they actually know how to fight it? And more importantly, win it? There's no point fighting any battle unless you're prepared to win it and know how to win it. And Ant Middleton certainly wasn't suggesting that, nor was he suggesting anything of the nature of a coup d'etat. That was British Landor arriving at their own fanciful conclusions, because that's really what they'd like to see happen. And I've heard it all before and seen absolutely nothing. And I've seen veterans before as well on the stage at these Tommy Robinson rallies saying, "Oh, are you prepared to die for free speech?" I've not seen any of them die for free speech or remotely done anything other than grifting in the name of free speech. Certainly not at Tommy Robinson rallies anyway. And Ant Middleton did make a very specific reference to the 13th of September for this so-called free speech rally, which is really just a grifting rally for Tommy, for Rob and Sob. As I've said many times, you know, he'll be quids in after it. But what will have changed by the 14th of September? Well, as long as they don't get suckered into kicking off, nothing at all, other than that a handful of people will be much richer from all the grifting that's done. But yes, what Ant Middleton said, we have every right to defend ourselves individually and collectively, and we most definitely do need to do so. But in terms of Ricky Jones and what he said, I would advise everybody, like I have done before, to go and read Repressive Tolerance by Herbert Marcuse, the German Jewish communist who wrote that dreadful extremist essay, in which he advocated that it was acceptable for the left to engage in any form of violence and terrorism against right-wing people because it was noble and just. And this is how these people think. Absolutely. This is what happens with brainwashing. And anything that we did to defend ourselves was actually just terrorism. You see, does it sound familiar? Does it sound just like the corrupt two-tier system that we've got? Of course it does. It sounds exactly the same way, because that's the mindset behind this crooked two-tier system. And the simple truth is, it's over. It's over, whichever way you look at it. This is now the end game. And as I said the other night, the only thing that's ahead from now on is escalation of conflict between polar opposites. And it's been coming for many years, and it was coming even before Brexit. And all the EU ref did was bring to the surface long-held divisions in society that could no longer be suppressed. It's now 100 times worse than it was during the night of the EU ref, or the day after, I should say. Absolutely. Yeah, this is the end game. It's over. You know, there's going to be nothing that can be done to heal this situation. It really is over. You now have two solidifying polar factions, and other factions will come to bear as well. And it's literally going to be the nationalists against the globalists. And Middleton was absolutely right when he said, you need to pick a side, and I totally agree with that. So go and pick your side. I know which side I'm on. I'm a lifelong nationalist, and the enemy is globalism.